Hello everyone, welcome back to our complete programming course. I hope you have completed the practice questions from our previous lessons. In the previous session, we learned about loop. We learned how to use for loop, while loops, range, break, continuous, and nested loop. And loops are extremely important because they allow us to repeat operations efficiently. But now we are going to combine loops with another very important concept. Today, we are going to learn about strings in Python. Strings were everywhere in programming. Whenever you are working with a person's name, an email address, a password, sentence, a city, a message, or even a paragraph of text, you are working with strings. Think about almost every application you use. Instagram has usernames and captions. WhatsApp has messages. YouTube has video titles and descriptions. Google has search queries. All of these involves text, and whenever program needs to work with text, strings become extremely important. Today, we are going to learn much more than simply storing text inside a variable. We are going to learn how to access individual characters, extract portions of text, modify strings, search inside strings, count characters, and eventually solve actual programming problems using strings. So, if you are ready, let's begin. Before we begin, let's quickly revise what we have learned in lesson 5. We learned about loops. A for loop allows us to repeat something over a sequence or range. For example, we also learned the while loop. We learned that while loop continues as long as its condition remains true. We have learned about break, which completely stops a loop, and continue, which skips the current iteration and moves to the next one. We also learned nested loop, and here's something interesting. A string is itself a sequence of characters. And because it's a sequence, we can actually use loops to go through a string character by character. So, the concepts from our previous lessons are going to be useful again today. Moving forward, let's see what we will learn to. First, we will understand exactly what a string is. Then, we will learn different ways of creating strings. After that, we will learn ways of creating strings. We will learn the most important concept, which is string indexing. This allows us to access individual characters. Then we will learn negative indexing. After that, we will learn string slicing, which allows us to extract portions of a string. We will also learn the length function. Then we will explore several useful string methods. We will learn how to change uppercase and lowercase letters, remove extra spaces, search for text, replace text, split strings and join them. Finally, we will use everything we have learned to solve actual problems. We will build programs like a vowel counter, a string reversal program, and a palindrome checker. So today's lesson is going to be very practical. Let's start with a basic question. What is string? In Python, string is simply a sequence of characters. They can be numbers, can be spaces, they can be symbols, and they can be combination of all three. So let's start. What is a string? Let's start with a basic question. In Python, a string is simply a sequence of characters. Characters can be a letter, they can be numbers, can be spaces, or can be symbols. And they can be a combination of all of these. For example, let's see in the code. Name is equal to Anubhav. So Anubhav is a string that is enclosed in double quotation. Quotation marks tell Python read these as a text. Let's open VS like create a few examples. So this is our code. Let's run this program. As you can see, we get our three strings printed. Now let's check their type. When we run this program, Python gives us class and str. Str is short for string only. So whenever you see class and str, Python is telling you that the value is a string. Now let us take an important example. Here's something that beginners often get confused about. Look at these two values. They look almost identical, but they are completely different. 100 without quotation marks is an integer, but 100 with quotation marks is a string. Let's check the type of both of these. Now let's run this program. So for the first one, Python prints its class as int, which is nothing but integer, and the second one is a str. So remember, quotation marks can change the meaning of a value. Moving on to the next slide. Now let's look at the different ways we can create a string. The most common way is using a single quotation mark. We can type any string, and we can put it in single quotation mark. We can also use double quotation marks. Both are perfectly valid in Python. So you can use either single or double quotes depending on what makes your code easier to read. Now, there's an interesting situation. What if I want to store this sentence? He said hello. If I write, for this, Python gets confused. Why? Because Python thinks the string ends before the second hello. One way to solve this is to use single quotes outside. Now, Python understands that the double quotation marks are the part of the string. Python also allows triple quotes. For example, triple quotes are particularly used when we want to store multiple lines of text. We may see them later when working with documentation and larger pieces of text. Now, let me ask you, is this a string? If your answer is yes, then you are absolutely correct. Even though it contains only numbers, quotation marks make it a string. And if I didn't put quotation marks, it would be treated as an integer. So don't judge the data type just by looking at the characters. Always pay attention to how the value is written. Now let's move forward. Now we are getting into one of the most important concepts of today's lesson, which is string indexing. Remember that a string is a sequence of characters, and because it's a sequence, every character has a position. Let us take the word Python. We can represent its positions like this as given on the slide. Notice something very important. Python starts counting from 0, not 1. This is extremely common in programming. So, the first character is at index 0, the second is 1, and so on. Now, let's see it in Python. Now for this, what do you think will we get? Index 0 means the first character. So the answer will be E. Now if I change the index to 1, it gives us Y. Now pause the video without running the program. Predict what this will produce. Think about the index position. Run it and verify your answer. So, I think you have got your answers. Now let's try something interesting. Print, what happens after this? Python gives us an error. The reason is that our string has only indexes from 0 to 5. There is no character at index 6. This error is called index error. Starting index out of range. String index out of range. Don't be scared when you see errors like this. Errors are actually useful. Python is telling us exactly what went wrong. In this case, we are trying to access a position that doesn't exist. So, remember the most important tool of indexing. Python starts indexing from 0, and the last valid index is always one less than the length of the string. Now that we have understand what if instead of counting from the beginning, we want to access characters from the end. For that, Python gives us something called negative indexing. Instead of starting from 0 at the beginning, negative indexing starts from -1 at the end, as you can see on the slide. The most important thing to remember is -1 always represents the last character. Now let's switch to VS Code. Let's take the word Python only. What do you think we will get? -1 means the last character. Exactly, we got 10. Now you might be thinking, why do we need negative indexing when we already have positive indexing? That's a good question. Imagine you have a very long string and you only care about the last character. With negative indexing, you don't need to know the exact length of the string. You can simply use -1 and Python gives you the last character. This becomes extremely useful when working with things like extensions, usernames, codes and other text data. Now let's try this. Pause the video and try it yourself. And verify your answers after trying it yourself only. So I think you have got your answers. Moving on to the next slide. Now we know how to access one character. But what if we want multiple characters? That's where slicing comes in. Slicing means taking a specific portion of a string. For example, word is or maybe I only want PYT. But instead of accessing every character separately, I can use slicing, which means here we are saying start from index 0 and stop at index 3. Remember, the starting index is included, but the ending index is excluded. So Python takes indexes 0, 1, and 2. That gives us PYT as a result. We can also leave the starting index, and this means start from the beginning and stop for index. This will also print the same result. We can also leave the ending index empty. For example, this means that it will start from index 3 and continue until the end. That's important rule. You should remember. The stop index is never included. If you write 0 to 4, you are getting indexes 0, 1, 2, and 3, not 4. Do it carefully. Moving on to the next slide. These are some examples of string slicing. Here's another form of slicing also. We can specify a step. The syntax becomes string, then start, stop, and step. For example, this is equals 0, and this means we'll start from 0, stop before 9, and move two positions at a time. So we get the following. Now let's learn how to reverse a string. We are going to use the step value for something really interesting. We can actually reverse a string using slicing, and the syntax is incredibly simple. Let's take a quick example. We are not specifying a stop also. We are specifying a step of -1. A step of -1 tells Python move backwards one character at a time. So Python starts from the end and moves towards the beginning. So the result will be this. Now let's take another example. What for this? Yes. The technique is extremely useful. Later, when we solve pallet down problems, this will become useful. Moving on to the next. Now let's learn how to find the number of characters in a string. Python provides a built-in function called len. Len simply tells us how many characters are present. For example, How many practice? Practice is important. These are also correct. For example, you have one space. So the total is 113. Now let's take a practical example. Now, Python can tell the length of their username. Moving on to the next slide. Now let's learn how to combine strings. This is called string concatenation. We can use the plus operator. Let's see with an example. Notice that I added double quotes between the two names. Without that space, we did get merged one, but with the space, we get a space. Be careful when combining strings with number. This will cause an error. For example,
Why? Because age is a string, but the double quotes age is a string, but age is an integer. Python doesn't automatically concatenate them using plus. We can convert the number to a string. We'll see here. Moving to the next slide. We learned that the plus operator can join strings, but Python also allows us to repeat strings using the multiplication operator. For example, you think Python repeats the string 3 times. Here you can see this. This moving on to the next slide, changing the case. Now let's learn some very useful string methods. These methods allows us to change the capitalization of text. Suppose we have we want to convert this into uppercase, then we can use the upper function. For example, so this converts everything into uppercase. Same we can use the lower function also to convert into to lowercase. Another type of function is the title function. This capitalizes the first letter of each word. Now there is another function called capitalize. This wait. One thing I want you to notice is that these methods don't permanently change the original string. The first line prints the uppercase version, but the itself is still in lowercase only. This is related to an important property of strings that we will discuss more later. Strings are immutable. Now, if you want to remove extra spaces, let's solve a very common real world problem when users accidentally enter extra spaces. For example, there are unnecessary spaces before and after the name. This gives the Python For this, the Python gives us the strip method to remove them. Now we get without the spaces. This becomes particularly useful when taking input from users. For example, if the user accidentally types spaces before or after their name, script cleans the input. This is a small technique, but you will see this kind of input cleaning frequently in real programs. Now, let's say we have some text, but we want to replace a particular word of character. For example, suppose we have, but we are teaching Python. So we want to replace Java with Python. Python provides a method called replace. Now let's understand what means. Replace takes two main values. The first value is what we want to find, and the second value is what we want to replace. So here we are saying find Java and replace it with Python. We don't have to replace complete words. We can also replace individual components. Remember when we called about strings being immutable? Replace doesn't actually modify the original string, it creates a new string. Now moving forward,